Laurel, those pictures behind you are really, really pretty.
Oh, thank you. I have
Those are really
Oh, wow.
12 of them.
Wow. Are they a series?
They're all the holidays.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Rabbi, I think עושה שלום after your sermon.
Indeed.
Okay.
I only do Kaddish when I see the candles. I'm good with the cues. Mhm. 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 Ooh. Welcome, everyone, to Temple Solel's Friday night Shabbat service. I'm Rabbi Efrat Zarin Zohar, and with me this evening is Cantor Israel Rosen and Robin Rosen, and joining us for technology and behind the scenes, Matthew Lipman. So we're really pleased to have you join us this evening. And Cantor, I believe we start with an egun. What is it this evening?
Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai.
And now we ask Robin to please kindle the Shabbat lights. And we might even think tonight a kavanah intention, that light, the flames that we see on the Shabbat candles, light and flame are things that are so complex and beautiful. And beauty of flames is that when you take a little bit of flame and you share it, right, it doesn't diminish the first flame when you kindle the second. And think of that like the love that we have within each one of us. You can never, ever run out of love. So when we see one another, either virtually or out in the world, send your love to one another. And it doesn't diminish what you have. It only adds to the world.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Let us light this light and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light this light and see the way to you, and let us say Amen.
And now the beautiful Shabbat song hymn, Lecha Dodi, about greeting the bride, greeting Shabbat.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בא אורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לה לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה.
And now we have Shalom Aleichem. We welcome what we call divine messengers, these beings that symbolize messages in the world from the highest source. And we welcome Shabbat with this beautiful message of Shalom.
La 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 la. שלום עליכם מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון. ממלך הם מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. בואכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך הם מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. La 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 la. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך הם מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך הם מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. La 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 la.
Now now that we've brought Shabbat into our hearts, we center ourselves with the Shema. And the Shema is an opportunity for us to turn within, to get quiet with ourselves, to begin to exclude all of the things that distract us with our eyes and even with our other senses, so that we begin to feel experientially and internally, reaching out to a kind of intuition and knowing that is beyond the physical, beyond the tangible. It is truly metaphysical and intangible, the oneness of all that is.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and yet there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
La 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 la. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, דור התהילות אוסף אלה, אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם לעולם ועד. La 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 ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu va'al kol amo Yisrael, va'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. לילה לה 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 לילה לה 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 שבת ויהי נפש.
And now we take a moment for silent prayer and personal reflection. And now we take this time in our service to bring prayers and thoughts of healing and speedy recovery, a refuah shlema, to all those in our congregational family and beyond who are not well in whatever way that is. And Robin, would you please read the names that you have for this evening?
Yes. Ann Becker, Richard Blanky, Joe Bulick, Mimi Cohen, Tracy Fiokowski, Jane Gambardella, Seth Gelwasser, Andrew Goldstein, Dr. Robert Greenstein, Don Harvey, Larry Jurist, Ida Kachurka, Hannah Cates, Phyllis Lewis, Fred Lipman, Michelle Margulies, Elwood Powers, Sid Rabin, Michelle Robinson, Gabriella Rosenthal, Randy Shattenkirk, Michael Slotnick, Ray Strauss, Charlie Wolf, and Martin Zaffman.
Now we invite those of you, any temple members on our Zoom, to share any names that you would like to share as well.
Buddy Blattner.
And I will share the names: Rachel bat Fruma, Menachem ben Batya, Yankel Yosef ben Bracha, Tova bat Esther, Sarah bat Hannah, Ari ben Miriam, Mordechai Avraham ben Esther. And we ask the cantor to please sing our beautiful song of Refuah Shlema this evening.
Mishberach Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים. אלנה רפנה לה, אלנה רפנה לה, אלנה רפנה לה, אלנה רפנה לה. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים.
So, we all need a lot more levity in our lives. And tonight, that's why I'm going to start with a bit of a joke. 9-year-old Joey was asked by his mother what he had learned in Hebrew school that day. Well, Mom, he said, our teacher told us how God sent Moses behind enemy lines on a rescue mission to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And when he got to the Red Sea, he had his engineers build a pontoon bridge, and all the people walked across to safety. And then he used his walkie-talkie to radio headquarters for reinforcements, and they sent bombers to blow up the bridge, and in the end, all the Israelites were saved. Confused, his mother asked, Joey, is that really what your Hebrew school teacher taught you? Well, Joey responded, not exactly, Mom, but if I told it to you the way the teacher told it to us, you'd never believe it. So, how many of you out there listening are Joeys? For very many people, the parting of the Red Sea, and all the miracles told about in this week's Parashat Bishalach are simply unbelievable and illogical. The modern mind finds miracles difficult to accept in general. And that's why there are so many modern shows that seek to explain some Bible story that seems on its surface so far-fetched. Perhaps you're one of those people who loves to watch those reenactments of biblical stories on the Discovery Channel or the History Channel with the attendant experts pointing out how, well, maybe the parting of the Red Sea happened because it was a volcanic eruption in Italy that triggered a tsunami that sped across the Mediterranean Sea at just the moment that the Israelites were leaving Egypt, giving them the ability to escape through the Red Sea at the end. Of course, that's certainly much more believable and less miraculous than the biblical story. Not. Or perhaps a really strong hurricane force wind blew all the water from the sea, leaving dry land. Well, that's a bit closer to the Torah story since it does mention a big wind. But the problem is that, like at Universal Studios in LA, of course, in the biblical story, the Red Sea is split. So there's a wall of water on the right and a wall of water on the left, not just all on one side. In fact, the description of the wall of water on the right and on the left is mentioned even twice in the biblical text in close fashion. So it says that Moses stretched his hand out over the sea, causing the sea to go back with a strong east wind all night and making the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And there was a wall of water unto them on their right hand and on the left as they went out in the midst of the sea on dry ground. And then, of course, the Egyptians pursued them in the midst of the sea, all of Pharaoh's horses and his chariots and his horsemen, and the waters returned, covering the chariots and the horsemen and all of Pharaoh's army in the sea, and not one of them survived. But the children of Israel walked upon the dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were, again, a wall on their left hand and a wall on their right hand. So why does the Torah mention this description twice within a few short verses of each other? What's so important about the waters being split in both ways, a wall on the right and a wall on the left? Why is it so important? Well, there are two possibilities that I can think of. First, it's mentioned twice to make sure that we readers don't think it's a mistake and that we realize it's truly a miracle. And why would we think it's a mistake? Well, because water doesn't split like that naturally. There's no known way to split water down the middle in the real world. So it has to be supernatural, otherwise known as a miracle. And that's, of course, what Torah commentators have said for centuries. Now, there's a second possibility of why it's mentioned twice, and here's this one. So that we readers shouldn't think it's unimportant to the story. In fact, it's essential to the story. And I believe that this is, in fact, also the case. I believe that these words were important to be repeated because they were highly symbolic and point to a metaphor underlying this entire extremely essential and important section of Torah, where the words that I just read are the culmination of the entire Exodus story, starting with the plagues. Now, what's the metaphor? My teacher, Rabbi Mitch Chefetz, once taught me how to understand the Exodus in a way that totally transformed how I saw it, the entire notion of miracle, and I never had a Pesach the same after I had learned this teaching. He taught, from the plagues to the parting of the sea is one big metaphor that helps us thousands of years later understand what it means to be a Jew today. And here's how we can understand it. The Hebrews were a people enslaved in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the Hebrew word for Egypt, and it means literally a very narrow, restricted, and limited place. And then there's the first plague. You might remember it. That's when water was turned into blood. And then the next 9 plagues occur, making 10 altogether. And this corresponds to the process of gestation or pregnancy. Now you're going to say, wait a minute. What do you mean? 9 plagues, is 9 months is pregnancy, but there are 10 plagues. Well, people, in ancient times, pregnancy, gestation, was counted according to lunar months, not solar months. And so it would be 10 solar months. And then the Hebrews are commanded to leave Mitzrayim, this dark womb that had both sheltered them. They got regular food and regular shelter, but trapped them into slavery for so long. And then when they're almost out of Mitzrayim, they're stuck right at the exit at the shores of the Red Sea, unable to leave, pursued by death in the form of Pharaoh's army. Suddenly, what happens? The waters part and a channel opens up, and miraculously, the Hebrews are able to burst through this channel, the waters on the right and the waters on the left, to the other side where death is defeated. And from that point on, they are no longer known as Hebrews. Interestingly, that was their slave name. That's the name others knew them as. But they go forward in their new life referred to as B'nai Yisrael, the people of Israel. And they are reborn. So let me recap. The Hebrews are a people enslaved in Mitzrayim, a very narrow, restricted and limited place. The first plague is water that turns to blood, and then 9 more make 10 altogether, corresponding to the process of gestation or pregnancy of 10 lunar months. And then the Hebrews are commanded to leave this dark, deadly womb of Egypt, and suddenly the waters part and a channel opens up, and they are able to burst through that channel to the other side, to life. And they receive a new name and are a people reborn. Among many scholars, this Exodus story is considered the master story of the Jewish people. And it's a story of near death and rebirth. So Christians tell the story of the resurrection, but Jews tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt. And according to Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, in his masterful book, The Jewish Way, Living the Holidays, which I highly recommend, it's a story that we must relive every 6 months without fail by celebrating Pesach, and then exactly 6 months later, Sukkot, or we Jews will forget who we are. It's this master story metaphor by which Jews perceive the world, and it's the master story metaphor that resonates with so many others beyond the Jewish people, such as African Americans and other groups who found great inspiration in referencing it. It is a story of giving birth, a deliciously female and feminine image, the birthing of B'nai Yisrael, the people, eventually to be known in post-exilic times as Jews. And isn't birth a miracle? If you've been blessed to experience it, then you know. You can understand everything about pregnancy and birth in a scientific way in these times today. We can each see it all develop through ultrasound. Your doctor can describe every aspect of the process of gestation and birth in purely medical terms. But when it happens, what do we say? Wow, it's a miracle, right? That's what we say. So let's remember when we celebrate Pesach, Passover, and God willing, hold a Seder this coming spring, that Passover was never just about a bunch of slaves going free. That's only the pshat, the simple, superficial level of that story. It's important, it's beautiful, but there's so much more. It was also always pointing to deeper meaning, this powerful metaphor that speaks to the depth of the human experience in every age, in every time, in any place. And as Rabbi Laura Geller wrote, the Passover story works on many levels at the same time: historical, political, and spiritual. The historical level reminds us that because we were slaves, we must fight against all forms of oppression. And then the political level is best captured in the famous words of the philosopher Michael Walzer. These are the words that we read every Friday night here at Temple of Solel. We just read them. First, that wherever you live, it is probably Egypt, a constricted, narrow place. And second, though, there is a better place, a world more attractive, a promised land. And third, that the way to that land is through the wilderness. There is no way to get from here to there except by joining together and marching. And then finally, the spiritual level is that every person, each one of us, has an Egypt. Each and every one of us has perhaps even several Egypts, constricted, dark and narrow places that keep us from being fully and completely free. So then this story begs us to ask ourselves the following questions. On a historical level, what do we need to be reminded of today? What about the Exodus from Egypt story do we need to focus on so that we can learn the lessons of the story that are applicable to our circumstances right now? And on a political level, what is or are our own society's Egypts? To reference Michael Walzer, what should we be joining together and marching about? And what is that promised land that we are supposed to strive to reach? And then finally, on a spiritual level, what is your personal Egypt? What is my personal Egypt? What is that constricted and dark and narrow place that keeps us from being fully free? Tonight, I hope we've come to realize that Torah is truly, truly and deeply wisdom for the entire world. Not just for Jews, for everyone. Wisdom that animates peoples and generations far beyond those who lived it in the stories at the times that they were written. The Torah contains eternal wisdom, wisdom that resonates on multi-dimensional levels, which is why it is indeed godly or divine. So next time someone approaches you and asks, "Hi, are you born again?" you have my permission to reply to them, "Why, yes, I am. Every Pesach, I and my people are born again. on so many, many levels. Shabbat Shalom.
הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. La 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 la. הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
This Shabbat, we remember those who have recently passed away during the period of Shloshim in the past 30 days. Joni, Meir, Shemino, cousin of Linda and Joel Willens, and all those who are marking yard sites for loved ones who have passed at this time in years past. Edna Bader, Ava Becker, Leon Berman, Anna Blazowski, Everett Brower, Helen Brower, Benjamin Cooper, Ann Davis, Rose Dressman, Grace Durbin, Saul Fass, Marilyn Feierberg, Rivka Friedenreich, Rosalind Friedman, Rose Fuchs, Judith Garfinkel, Jack Ginsberg, Beatrice Goldbart, Lee Goldstein, Etta Greenberg, Helen Harold, Dr. Lewis Harold, Arthur Kale, Bert Kaplan, Edwin Katzen, Vivian Kaufman, Judith Kleiman, Jennifer Levy, Josephine Leecry, Homer Marquette, Helen Martin, Ruth Martin, Blanche Math, Sylvia Migatz, Eugene Mischel, Stanley Niederman, Ruth Petrowski, Ann Pollock, Beatrice Robbins, Edward Robbins, Jenny Roth, Sophie Ruskin, Regina Saltzman, Sydney Schwartz, Marilyn Schwartz, Leslie Sills, Isabel Sobel, Jersey Topolsky, Burton Warner, Ida Weiner, Ruth Weldon, Tess Windroff, and Robert Zelnick. In reciting the Kaddish, we affirm our awareness of holiness in our world. Much of our experience of divine goodness, grace, and love has come to us through those whose lives have touched our own. And so we invoke the transcendent power of love and caring as we together sanctify God's name with the Kaddish prayer. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. May the one who makes peace in the heavens above bring that shalom down to us here on earth, and let us all work to create it as well as together we say amen. And now we have announcements from Matthew Lipman.
There. All right. So it's a very, very special night tonight. So before I get started, I want to thank our Temple Solel family, those that have joined us over Zoom. I want to thank Dick and Bunny, our president Jason, Laurel, Michael, Rabbi Frazen, Ruth, Stephanie, and Sue. Thank you for making it a special evening, and we look forward to speaking with you and having a little get-together after our service as well. A very, very special evening. And Rabbi, just to share with you, either Rabbi is fine, that on Facebook, which I thought was interesting, that Rhonda Sasson, our very own Rhonda, posted with a special Torah portion this week, the same one I read from the Torah at my Bar Mitzvah, February 10th, 1990. So she just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was beautiful. And hello to Robin, and thank you so much. All right, so let's get started here. So good evening. On this 16th day of Shabbat, on behalf of the Temple Board of Directors, I would like to thank our Solel family and friends, as well as our global audience, for connecting with us virtually and spiritually on this Shabbat evening. Although we may not be able to join all of you in person, please know that Temple Solel is always here for you. In addition to streaming worship services and classes, our lines remain open, and you are encouraged to contact us for religious, spiritual, and other needs. Temple Solel has strived to be a relevant and valuable source of meaning to our community in these uncertain times. Now we ask our members for their support in return, because we need their help to continue to run all our meaningful programming. Through your kindness and support, everything we have accomplished will remain, and our hopes and plans for the future will be realized. Thank you in advance for any generosity. So our wonderful Tikkun Alum Committee, we have a couple announcements I want to share. So first off, Temple Solel is kicking off its Brit Hazon campaign. And on behalf of Scott and Stephanie and the whole committee, they would like to ask that all of you try committing to at least one action over a 6-week period that will help create a more sustainable and equitable world. There is a link to the Brit website that will be posted online as well as in our newsletter. When you get there, you'll see buttons for there are 6 areas that you can explore. When you find one that you like, simply choose which action you'd like to try, fill in some contact information, and indicate that you are participating through the Temple Solel community. Rosen will then register you and send you tips for your commitment over the next 6 weeks. If you want to try more than one action, please do so. We're hoping to find at least 50 Solel members willing to make a commitment during a 6-week period from now until the end of Passover. Please join us. All right. After Passover, we'll have a party to celebrate our completed commitments, but of course it'll be virtual. Next Friday, we have our annual Vegan Shabbat dinner. We're very excited about that. The dinner begins at 6:30 p.m. It'll be on Zoom. The link is in our e-news blast, and you can also call the office or email us for the link. In the email blast, as well as online, the menu is posted from our wonderful in-house caterer, artisan caterer, that put together a beautiful menu. They'll even deliver, which is even better. And we look forward to seeing everybody a week from this Friday on our Vegan Shabbat. So for all our virtual live events, you can always join us in multiple ways. First, on the Temple's Facebook live stream, or you can even join us on our website at templesolel.com/live-feed. And of course, for our Friday night services, our family and our congregation can join us over Zoom as well. So tomorrow, we encourage everybody to join us for our Torah study, starting at 9:30 a.m. over Zoom, where Rabbi Efrat will always inspire us and challenge us intellectually and spiritually. This Sunday, we have our religious school at our normal time at 10 a.m. And I do want to share real quickly, we had a beautiful experience last Sunday with all of our kids and our teachers. We actually were able to see a virtual tree planting in Israel. We had a forest ranger from Israel, do a virtual Zoom session with our kids to show us how important it is to plant a tree in Israel, and that we purchased. And then, of course, we had our very own Stephanie Joffe and Scott Lewis, who then gave us a little seminar and understanding of how important it is to plant trees and all different varieties we can do. It was a very special day. So in honor of that, a couple quick quotes for you, Rabbi. When we plant trees, we plant the seeds of peace and the seeds of hope. And the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So with that, we ask that all of you stay safe. We pray that everyone sees good health, and a Shabbat Shalom. And Rabbi Efrat and Cantor and Robin, back to you to take us away.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Matthew. And I want to invite everyone, if you enjoyed tonight's sermon and you enjoyed sort of seeing things on multiple levels, if that's something that attracts you, please join us at our Torah study, because this is what we do. We explore Torah in very, very relevant ways that bring all of these multiple meanings to the surface and to our consciousness. And then now we are going to end with which song? Adon Olam.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נסע בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא אדון עולם והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נסע בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם בידו הפקיד רוחי בעת תשען ואירה אדון עולם ואם רוחי גוויעתי אדוני לי ולא אירה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נסע בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם.
No one does falsetto like our Cantor. And now we join together for Kiddush.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנה חלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת
Amen.
לחיים.
L'chaim. And now we recite our beautiful prayer, Motzi, for all the wonderful food that we are about to eat if we are sitting down for Shabbat dinner. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.